Hi, everyone. My name is Weilun Zhang. I am a PhD student in human geography at the University of Minnesota. Together with Yunpeng Zhang, assistant professor of urban planning at University College Dublin, I am delighted to present a summary of our chapter, Regenerating Shanghai Through Urban Spatial Design, The Limits of Experimentalism and Participation. In this project, Yunpeng and I seeks to make sense of the very recent shift in urban governance and spatial change in Chinese cities. Based on a case study of the urban regeneration projects in Changning District, Shanghai, we look at what we call design fix, which is essentially ways of upgrading efforts that is done through micro and community level spatial design projects. Design fixes are essentially a series of community building efforts, urban amenities upgrades, street and public space beautification, and state and corporate-led makeovers of dilapidated or well-demanded residential and commercial spaces by urban residents. Our conceptualization and contextualization of this design fix is built upon David Harvey's notion of spatial fix and the concept that is creative fix, which is further developed by some scholars of urban China, to look at the logic of land-based accumulation in China's urbanization and renewal processes. Besides, we also consider a long-standing experimental logic in China's state governance, especially in city making, as a key instrument in adapting to policy changes and responding to crises of governance. In our context, such are twin crises of what we call accumulation and legitimation. What we mean by this is that spatial design's intervention into the remaking of urban communities is a result of Chinese urbanization over the past decades that results in place annihilation and more exclusionary urban space formation. So in talking about this, we can think of media coverage on China's demolition as well as real estate-based transition that displaces residents over the past 2 or 3 decades since the market reform. But to scholars studying experimental city, experiments are ambiguous and contradictory. So the recent 10 years of Shanghai's urban experiments that sort of shifts away from this demolition-centered model to a more participatory, more inclusive urban design intervention are very similar in our research. So based on policy analysis, interviews with experts and residents, as well as ethnographic observation in Changning District, which is a district at the very forefront of the so-called micro-regeneration, we analyzed 2 modes of experimental design fixes, respectively done through state-corporate alliances as well as groups of urban professionals, to look at the commonalities and discrepancies of these interventions. So what we find in the end is that participatory design fixes, like Harvey's spatial fix, does increase community efforts in spatial change. However, we also provide a cautionary tale of this strategy, that it is a response to the longstanding crises in inheriting the land-based accumulation, as well as responses from citizens and communities. Through this lens, design intervention still risks triggering retail gentrification and commodification of places. So we conclude that these efforts mark a new shift in Chinese urban governance through a myriad of actors like urban investment corporations, developers, and urban professionals. But we also reveal that these innovations are inherently responses and resolutions to long-standing structural issues and problems rooted in land-based capital and urban politics in China. Thank you.